Your American coworker says, "Oh, wow, great job on that presentation." But her face says something totally different. Is she being mean, or did you actually do something good? The truth is, she's using sarcasm. And if you don't understand it, you'll feel confused and awkward in every casual conversation with native speakers. Today, I'm teaching you 5 types of American sarcasm so you never miss it again. Hi, I'm your English teacher, and welcome back to Daily English Edge. Sarcasm is one of the biggest parts of American culture, but most ESL textbooks never teach it. That's because sarcasm isn't about the words themselves. It's about tone, context, and understanding what Americans really mean. In the next 5 minutes, you'll learn exactly how Americans use sarcasm, how to spot it, and why it matters for speaking English fluently. Let's go. The first type is ironic compliment. This is when Americans say something nice about you, but they actually mean the opposite. The tone changes everything. For example, if someone says, "Oh, you're so organized," but their voice goes down at the end and they look at your messy desk, they're being sarcastic. They mean you're actually disorganized. Another example, your friend arrives 2 hours late and you say, "Wow, thanks for being so punctual." You're not thanking them, you're criticizing them sarcastically. The key is to listen to the tone. If the voice sounds flat or ironic, it's sarcasm. If it sounds warm and normal, it's a real compliment. The second type is exaggeration. Americans love to exaggerate to make something funny or to emphasize how they really feel. For instance, if it's a little cold outside, your friend might say, "It's literally freezing. I think my fingers are going to fall off." Nobody's fingers are actually going to fall off. They're just exaggerating to show the cold really bothers them. Or if a test is difficult, you might hear, "That exam was impossible. I'm never going to pass this class." They probably didn't fail, but they're exaggerating because it felt very hard. The point here is, when Americans exaggerate, they're not lying. They're just using bigger language to show emotion. Listen for words like literally, so, or absolutely with extreme words. The third type is deadpan sarcasm. This is when someone says something obviously ridiculous with a completely serious face. They don't laugh or smile. They just say it flat. For example, your coworker says, "I'm thinking about moving to the moon next year. The rent is cheaper there." Their face is totally straight, no expression. They're obviously joking, but their serious tone makes it funny. Another example. Someone asks you how your day was, and you say, "Oh, it's been great. I got cut off by 3 cars, spilled coffee on myself, and my boss yelled at me." You're saying it with no emotion, so they know you're being sarcastic and actually had a terrible day. The trick is, if something sounds too crazy to be true and the person isn't smiling, it's probably deadpan sarcasm. The fourth type is the sarcastic question. Instead of making a statement, Americans ask a question sarcastically to make their point stronger. For example, instead of saying, "You're late," they might ask, "Did you forget what time we agreed to meet?" That question isn't really asking for information, it's a criticism. Another example, you finish explaining something complicated and someone asks, "Do you think I understand English?" They're not really asking, they're saying, "Your explanation was too complicated for me." Or imagine you're at a restaurant and the waiter brings the wrong food. You might say, "Is this what I ordered?" You already know it's wrong, but you're using a question to express frustration sarcastically. When you hear a question that seems like criticism, it's probably sarcasm. The fifth and final type is fake agreement. Americans sometimes agree with someone just to be sarcastic and show disagreement. For example, if someone makes a ridiculous statement like, "I'm the best driver in the world," you might say, "Yeah, right, sure you are." You're using "yeah" and "sure," but your tone says you completely disagree. Another example, your friend says, "I'm definitely going to the gym tomorrow," but they never go to the gym. You respond, "Oh yeah, totally. I believe you this time." You're pretending to believe them, but you're really saying you don't believe them at all. The key here is context and tone. If someone agrees with you but sounds unconvinced or ironic, they're probably being sarcastic and actually disagree. There you have it, 5 ways Americans use sarcasm every single day. Now that you know these patterns, The next time an American says something that sounds confusing, stop and ask yourself, is this irony, exaggeration, deadpan, a sarcastic question, or fake agreement? Understanding sarcasm is how you level up from textbook English to real, fluent conversation. Practice recognizing these patterns in movies, podcasts, and conversations with native speakers. The more you listen, the more natural it becomes. Subscribe to Daily English Edge for a new English lesson every single day, and I'll see you tomorrow.